Then the second theme, it says there is no time in life. And that we can appreciate. In New York, nobody has any time. But no time in life means it's a thing that you reflect on, where you think back. And the way I like to do it is I think back, I'm in my 65, 65th year. I can think back to my 15th year, 20th, 25th. And the time from then to now is like that. Really. It's like I meet someone I knew that time, and then there we are, we hardly recognize each other, but it's just been like this in a minute, you know. Or you look at a picture in an album, family album, and it's just like last minute, you know. You can remember when you look back at yourself when you were young, time dragged very slowly. It seemed like we'd never get to this or that you were striving for. But still, now when you look back, it's like that. And you know the expression that, or the thing reported by many people who have near-death experiences, that when they are dying or thinking they're dying, their life flashes before their eyes, they say, remember? And that's like it runs at super speed, and then at that time, life it's like a minute. You know yourself when you awaken from a dream, when you're dreaming, if you remember your dream, sometimes you do. And when you awaken, you kind of have a threshold moment there where you realize you were sort of in a long time in the dream, or it seemed like time was passing. But when you awaken, it's just gone instantly, and the whole thing was an instant. Right? So what that means is from right now until the moment of our deaths, may it be a century or more, dozens of fire pig cycle years for all of you. But whenever it is, when you're there, to here, it's like this. That's it. It'll be just like that. So there's really no time. So you shouldn't be thinking, you know, oh, I'll do this and that and the other, and then well, I might die sometime. But, you know, in other words, be unaware of impermanence and be unaware of your death. You will be dying, for sure. At the time you do, this will be a moment, this whole life. And it will be full of what, that moment? It will not, it will be deeply regretted if it's just humdrum. Oh, yeah, I passed that moment. Oh, sure. And then you don't know where you're going, really. Because if you pass it humdrum without waking up, without developing self-awareness, you have no idea what your impulses will take you, because you are a creature of impulse. There's things that you feel you have to do or you don't have to do, and your reactions that you have that come from somewhere you don't know where it is. But some psychiatrists would say, oh, it's your unconscious. And then you're just driven by it, and they tell you that's nothing you can do about that except maybe be less frightened of some of its contents. But in this science and in this psychology, you can definitely do something about it. And not only that, but you should and you must if you want to go where you want to go, into better places and not worse places. You don't know what your unconscious will do, because it's unconscious. It doesn't have to be. So those two combined, and then we stop making a fantasy about, I'm going to do this and that and the other, then I'll meditate after I retire, or then I'll do this and the other. You know, we come up into the moment by moment, with a full intensity of focus on the really high evolutionary meaning of whatever it is that we think or say or do. And we really live at a different level of intensity and mindfulness. And even little things become highly significant to us. And we are aware of all kind of layers of causation and causality. And we're much more alive, actually. So that's what you call turning off interest in this life. You know, instead of just living in a scheme of yourself about what you think your life is. Okay? That's the first basic step in the individual vehicle. I'm just recapping, but I'm doing it on the basis of that verse. The second basic step then is not fantasizing about some future time. Well, I'll be happy when I'm born in heaven. I'll be happy when I'm born in Tibet. I'll be happy when I'm born in California instead of being stuck in New York. Or whatever. You know? And then, because those will all be difficulties. And then to overcome being sort of attaching oneself to sort of doing some meritorious thing to get to some sort of future life, we think about the inexorability of causation, and we realize there's so many causes. Everything we do is a cause. Even any negative thought will cause something in the future, and therefore you can't really count on that you're going to really control it in a certain way. So you become really aware of the inexorability of causality. It's in a way that again, for that theme of meditation, for that theme of developing understanding, again, the evolutionary perspective is really great. And we totally agree with it, except that we make it personal. It's not just genes having the evolution, it's you personally, associating with different kinds of genes. You and the genes are interacting. Your mind is what we call a spiritual gene that interacts with physical genes in different life forms. But otherwise, the evolutionary perspective is very helpful for that, to become aware of the incredible nature of causality. And then looking at suffering and really honestly getting out of denial and facing the suffering of life and realizing that any life form is suffering. And basically, ignorant life form, that means, not an enlightened life form, ignorant life form. The ignorant life form means any form of existence where you feel you are separate from the rest of the world, and therefore, in some sense, the rest of the world and you are in a competition or a conflict. Sometimes that can be harmonious, sometimes you can have allies, but overall it's vast, the rest of the world, and it overwhelms you always. It overwhelms you with death, sickness, pain, loss of loved ones, and you can go on with it. And those are really inevitable. And even in another life, even in Tibet, they will be inevitable. So when you reflect deeply on these two things, look at the nature of the self-centered existence, the existence that I'm me and I'm not everybody else, and then it's me versus everybody else on some level, and that will always be frustrating. I'll never have enough, I'll never be safe enough, I'll never be satisfied enough, and therefore that is not a desirable way to be. Then I don't really long for a future life. In other words, I might seek some future circumstance, but I won't think that's my destination really ultimately. I'll be seeking transcendence. I'll be seeking freedom. I'll be seeking nirvana. Complete happiness and freedom from all involuntary, controlled, addictive emotions and concepts, and also blind action, evolutionary action driven by impulse. I'll be free of both of those things, and I'll be in nirvana. Okay?